While the Capitol is abuzz outside, preparing for hundreds of thousands of visitors, there's a lot of action inside as well. Confirmation hearings for cabinet appointments continue today. Senator Tom Price is up for Secretary of Health and Human Services. His finances are under scrutiny after a CNN report indicated he had filed legislation favorable to a medical company right after buying stock in it. If confirmed, he would play a key role in any changes to the Affordable Care Act. Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren tried to pin him down today on cutting services.
Can you assure this committee that you will not cut $1 from either Medicare or Medicaid should you be confirmed to this position?
Senator, I believe that the metric ought to be the care that the patients are receiving.
I take that as a no?
It's that's the wrong metric. Take care of the patients.
Simple questions. And frankly, the millions of Americans who rely on Medicare and Medicaid today are not going to be very reassured by your notion that you have some metric other than the dollars that they need to provide these services.
Joining me is Mo Cowan. He represented Massachusetts in the United States Senate as interim senator in 2013 when John Kerry was picked as the United States Secretary of State. Senator Cowan, it's good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
So while Democrats obviously didn't know how to win a presidential election, they clearly know how to make nominees squirm in these hearings. But do they know how to mount an effective opposition to policies they oppose? Do they have a plan? Is there any strategy out there?
I think there's definitely strategy. You're seeing it play out in these confirmation hearings. What I think is happening here is they're laying the groundwork. They don't have the votes to stop any particular nominee from becoming a cabinet secretary. But through the hearings, through the questions, they raise additional questions that I wouldn't be surprised they start to pick at over time, particularly when the administration starts to roll out its policies.
So there's a boycott. Catherine Clark was one of the first, the Massachusetts congressperson.
Yes.
Mike Capuano added his name today. Roughly 50 Democratic representatives. Is that a wise thing to do? Is that a good face to put on the Democratic Party for America?
Listen, I think anytime you stand for principle, and I take them at their word, and they're taking a principled position, it's always a good face to put on, regardless of your politics. They have their reasons for not coming to attend the inaugural. It's not the first time in our history it's happened. In the past inaugurals of President Obama, a number of Republicans left D.C. and did not participate in the inauguration. So I respect those who make the choice. Equally, I respect those who decided to be part of the event, but also in their own way are protesting, if not the candidate, then the circumstances.
Do you respect those who question the legitimacy of President Trump's election? Civil rights icon John Lewis. Joe Kennedy refused to say whether he thought Trump was a legitimate president. Same with Elizabeth Warren. Do you respect that point of view? Is that the correct way to go? I mean, Barack Obama lived through this for 8 years.
Yes.
From the birther movement led by the then non-candidate, non-president-elect Donald Trump.
I definitely think there's irony at best.
There is.
At the sensitivity to those who question the outcome, or at least the events leading up to the outcome of the election. I'll say this, when it comes to Congressman John Lewis, given what he's done for this country, and particularly for the civil rights movement, I think any time he raises a question about any issue, it's worth discussing. And I respect the man, and I respect his viewpoints, but I also respect the outcome of this election.
When you were in the Senate, you served with was Chuck Schumer? Yeah, of course he was in the Senate then.
Yes, he was.
He's now the leader. He's from Brooklyn, really the heartland of America.
Yes.
Nancy Pelosi, obviously from San Francisco. Do they have a heartland strategy? I mean, currently they are the face of the Democratic Party, which doesn't exactly carve away at what made Donald Trump president of the United States.
You know, I had this idea after the election. As Democrats, let's get a train and do a whistle-stop tour through the nation and talk to people and find out the reasons they voted, why they voted, and what they're concerned about. I think that's good for all the parties, including the Democratic Party. I know Senator Schumer. I think he's going to be a great leader for the Democrats in the Senate. I think he's going to try to do a lot of wonderful things for the country. I think he'll try to work across the aisle with his colleagues on the Republican side. And I think Leader Pelosi in the House, who I don't know as well, I think she and her caucus will do the same to the extent the opportunities present themselves.
Cornell Belcher, who wrote A Black Man in the White House, was with us today on Boston Public Radio. He talked about part of what happened on November 8th is whites taking back their country, troubled by, he believes, troubled by the fact that too many black and brown Americans had too much power and they had too little. If you buy that notion, I'm curious to know if you do, how do Democrats counter that? How do they win back white working class voters?
Well, I know Cornell. He's a good man. I respect him.
Do you buy this?
You know, I haven't talked to him about it. I think there is probably is a strain of that out there. Look, the country is divided today as it's been in a long, long time, and I think that's a problem for all of us to confront and acknowledge, and we must try to work together to do something about it. But at the end of the day, I think in this election, the more people I talk to of all hues, there's a lot of concern about the economy, the division, the inequality, and I think in this campaign or in future campaigns, we as Democrats are going to have to spend more time talking about that and coming up with real solutions. And by the way, my friends on the Republican side ought to start thinking about that too, because I think what we had here in the guise of President-elect Trump is the first real third-party candidate to actually win the presidency.
You know, do you remember a guy, Deval Patrick?
I'm familiar with him.
Yeah, you worked for
yes,
that guy in
yes,
your former
yes.
life. Deval Patrick has been, to me, surprisingly silent in these last couple of months until he wrote a blistering condemnation of Attorney General nominee Jeff Sessions, talking about what he was like in Alabama in the 1980s. Do you expect us to hear more from Deval Patrick? Do you know if we'll hear more from the former governor? You do.
Contrary to popular opinion, I'm not the Deval whisperer, but
do you think we will hear more from him, though?
Well, you know, Deval's a man of conscience and principle, and to the extent he has something to say on something he cares about, he will. I think in the context of Senator Sessions' nomination, he had direct, specific experience with the senator, and he was asked to weigh in, and he did. And I think he'll continue to have his voice in the public sphere. He's always said that. And how it manifests itself, I don't know, but like everyone else, I'm curious.
You do know, but you won't tell me. Senator Mo Cowan, it's great to see you.
Welcome back to my neighborhood, by the way.
I know that. Thanks. Nice to see you.